In the previous video, we inserted a table of contents. Now it's time to insert the table of figures and the table of tables, also known as a list of tables. There's a slightly different procedure for this using Microsoft Word, so I have it in a separate video. The first thing we have to make sure is that our format is correct. Let's go down to a figure and a table and see what that means. So here's a figure, and the key is that I have a caption. This caption here, Figure 1 Pinout Diagram, comes from Microsoft Word's captioning tool. To access that for a figure, you can click anywhere in the figure itself and then right-click. A drop-down menu will then have the option to insert the caption. You must use this tool when adding the caption in order for the table of figures to pick up the fact that this should have a page number and a reference inside of that table. If you just put your own text here, even if it's centered, the table of figures will not figure it out. Similarly, for one of our tables, I also have captions. Adding a caption to a table is a little weird. If I hover over my table, you'll see this plus the moving sign here showing up in the very top left corner. If I right-click there, then once again I have the option to insert the caption. Either way, you have to use the captioning tool, or else Microsoft Word will not be able to figure out that you have something there. I'm now going to scroll up to the top of the document, and a traditional place for the table of figures is underneath table of contents. Let's just put a new space there. And now something important is going to happen, which is that if I just put in a table of figures here, it's not going to have a label. Let me show you what I mean. Now, because I added a new space, I need to go back to normal text. And if I want to add in a table of figures, I have to go to References, just like we did for table of contents. But now it isn't here. This is only for the table of contents. We have to go here. It's somewhere in the middle, and it says Insert Table of Figures. Now, when I click on that, a new dialog will open up, and I have many options. Most of the time, the default is fine. I want it to say figure, then the number, basically the whole caption, and then the page number. Now, this just goes to show you that if you have a very long caption, it's going to look very strange in your table of figures, so try to keep your captions short. For the most part, we don't need to change anything here. So I say OK, but notice how nothing really showed up here. No heading saying table of figures. Usually, you're going to want that, especially because it can show up in your table of contents so that the reader can quickly locate it. You have to do that manually, and you can do it before or after. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it after I've created this table. And all I do is I insert a new line, I go back to my home, and this is going to be heading 1 that says Table of Figures. Now, remember that the table of contents will not automatically update. I need to do that for it. So I click the table of contents and I go Update Table. Updating the entire table, and we see the table of figures has shown up. I'm going to do the same thing now for a table of tables. I'm going to add the heading first, because why not? It'll say Table of Tables. Sometimes also List of Tables is acceptable. And now I go References, and there is no button to insert a table of tables. I need to do that, strangely enough, through the table of figures. So I'm going to click here again, Insert Table of Figures, but now I'm going to change one very important thing. Where it says Caption Label, I'm going to change that to Table. That's the only thing I need to change. We want the table of figures and table of tables to have the exact same format otherwise, and I'm going to click on OK. This particular document only has one table in it, but you'll notice that none of these show up here. Microsoft Word does understand that I've added a table of tables. Once again, I have to update my table of contents. Entire table, and everything will update. Now, let's say that I add a new figure. for the purpose of argument, I'm just going to drag and drop something in here. So this is my set of figures. Although these images are already in the document, I'm just going to show you what happens. I'm going to drag it and drop it in, and Microsoft Word is smart enough to know what I'm doing. And it actually inserted it in the next page. Now, if I'm going to just update my table, it will not show up because I don't have a caption yet. Let me show you. So there's no caption, there's nothing here, there's no formatting whatsoever. And if I go up here, just like with a table of contents, I'm going to click in here, and unfortunately there's no button. I have to right-click and update the field. I want the entire table, it knows what it's doing. But nothing has happened. Nothing has happened because there is no caption. So I scroll back down to my image, I right-click, insert caption. It auto-labels the numbers for me. I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to say new figure. We'll be deleting it label. I don't need it for this document. And I say OK. Now that I have this, I'm going to see what happens when I update my table of figures. And just take a look. Everything now shows up as appropriate. I have the new figure, and I have everything else numbered appropriately, figures 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is one of the significant benefits of using the automatic tools in Microsoft Word. It can handle all the renumbering for you. If it didn't, if I was doing this manually, what I'd have to do is, now that I have this new figure 1, I have to go to the new figure 2, I guess, and call it figure 2 as opposed to figure 1. But all of that is updating for me. Just to make sure it happens, for everything, I will Control-A, select everything, right-click in the document, and just say Update Field. Again, entire table. We want to basically tell Microsoft Word, hey, I've selected everything, update everything that you can. And it'll go through certain things, like my 3 tables, and we'll update my whole document. That's something you should be doing towards the end of your editing, just to make sure that in case you miss something, you select everything and say just update all of it, and it'll do that all for you.